The disappointment for me, from the point of view of leadership, was the failure of NATO to grasp a responsibility for disarmament when they had the opportunity to do so with tactical nuclear weapons. And we're now left with this ridiculous inheritance, really, for NATO of nuclear weapons that nobody sees any military purpose for, but they apparently have some political purpose, which is central to NATO's burden sharing. I don't think very many people actually believe that, but we're stuck on the basis of consensus with that. And personally, I was quite disappointed here in the United Kingdom by the Cold War nature of the discussion at the end of the Trident alternatives review. The debate and discussion was very 20th century. Some young people said to me, "We don't understand these terms that these political leaders are now using in the world that we live in of different types of threats. You know, why are we planning for 100 years or more and the prospect that we will switch the clock back to the 20th century when we know the clock is already moving in terms of threats and the security problems we have in the world?" The positive thing about the last 3 or 4 years is that there has been a growing sense of what can be achieved in moving to a different form of security. So, I mean, think tanks, experts, even some political leaders have been putting forward arguments about how we can move to a different form of security, particularly in the Euro-Atlantic region, where after all 95% of these weapons are. You know, we tend to obsess about the prospect of Iran having a nuclear weapon, or North Korea having a nuclear weapon, or Pakistan and India, and for all very good reasons. But actually 95% of these weapons are in our part of the world, in the Euro-Atlantic area. 95% of them, I mean, of the 14 countries that have nuclear weapons, 9 of them are in our part of the world. So it must be quite difficult for other countries in the world looking at us to accept that the burden lies with countries beyond our area. I mean, the burden for disarmament, which we all sign up to, we all believe in a world that's free of nuclear weapons. Some of us say the conditions for a world that's free of nuclear weapons because we find it difficult to say a world that's free of nuclear weapons, but we all fundamentally believe in the same thing, or say we do. But we have a tendency from this northern part of the world, from this Euro-Atlantic region, to place the burden for that on the other part of the world. And of course they have responsibilities, and of course we have to be concerned about more nuclear weapons in the hands of countries with less stable governments and in some of the most difficult regions in the world. I understand that, and that's where problems are likely to come from. But in terms of leadership, we have the bulk of the responsibility because we have the vast majority of these weapons. And we are the people who, if we don't think about this more carefully, are the people who will spend significant resources that we don't presently have on renewing or building a dependency on these weapons for future generations. Of course, what it requires is political leadership. I mean, what we need are leaders who not only want to see a change, but have the political capital to allow them to change so that they can't be accused of making their countries less secure. And the arguments are there. They have been developed. They've been developed by, you know, think tanks and organisations and networks all over the world to show people that disarmament increases security. There is nobody who thinks that we are less safe in this world because we have fewer chemical or biological weapons, or that we use fewer, practically no, anti-personnel landmines, or that we use fewer, practically no, cluster munitions. And there's nobody thinks that we will be any less safe if we can control small arms, which are the real weapons of mass destruction in the world. I mean, there is a very strong narrative now in the world that disarmament is consistent with improved security, but we need to be able to apply it to nuclear weapons. And it seems increasingly difficult to do that in a situation where the domestic politics of individual countries doesn't allow their leaders to take the steps that are necessary. I kind of agree with the analysis that we're all focusing on the same things. I agree with the analysis that we all have the same objective at the end of the day. And I also agree with the analysis that we've lost leadership that we thought we had, but it's not that far away. You know, and it could come back. And what we have to do is we have to keep working. So from my point of view, the network that I have created continues to expand, continues to engage those countries in Europe who are seen to be the people who are most reluctant to see disarmament, those who live on the edge of Russia, as it were. I find them interesting interlocutors. I find them interesting people to engage with. I find them people that are prepared to listen and to debate and to tell you why they have concerns. And I think once we start dealing with them, there's a possibility that we can allay those fears and get them to move on. It's challenging and difficult work, and maybe we were a bit over-optimistic when we had President Obama in Prague and the whole world cheering him, but the problem is I think that the whole world, like many things it cheers, leaves it to the person who had the idea in the first place to deliver it and leaves them to get on with it on their own. And we did kind of abandon him. I don't know many other leaders who were pleased to buy into that agenda, who devoted any of their time domestically or their political capital domestically into delivering on this agenda.